views and opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of Access Fort Wayne, the Allen County Public Library, or any other supporting groups. If you'd like to produce a show, call us at 260-421-1250.
Let me be your lighthouse so I can show you the way. Let me be your shining light, I'll keep you from drifting away. I'm the one that makes you try when...
Hello, welcome to my TV show. This is Patty Hunter. Today's special guest is, on Zoom, Mr. Mike Fichter, President and Chief Executive Officer of Indiana Right to Life.
That's correct.
It's a long title.
It is a long time.
So today's topic is about Indiana that became an abortion destination back in 2022. Wow. That was when Roe versus Wade was reversed.
Correct.
Why was this happening to our state of Indiana?
Yeah, that's a great question. There was a confluence of things that all happened at one time, going back to looking at summer of 2022. So Roe was reversed on June 24th, 2022. At that time, the Indiana legislature became the first in the country after Roe versus Wade to take action. But of course, they had to schedule the legislative session, get everything in motion for that. At the same time, Kentucky had a trigger law that went into effect. Ohio had a heartbeat law that had been blocked. So Ohio petitioned to have the blockage removed from the heartbeat law. So you have all of these things going on at the same time. You have the abortion industry just becoming hysterical with all of their response to the reversal of Roe. At the same time, you have Indiana's Attorney General moving to get injunctions lifted that had been on a lot of Indiana laws prior to the reversal of Roe. So you have all of these things kind of all mixing into each other. And what happens is you have Ohio's law goes into effect, Kentucky's law goes into effect. Our law passes on August 5th and is signed into law, but it doesn't go into effect until September 15th. It was only in effect for 1 week until a judge stepped in and blocked the law. So now what you've created is a situation of just open borders in Indiana, particularly for women traveling from Ohio and Kentucky, some from Tennessee, who came to Indiana for abortions. So this is all proved out when we saw the 2022 abortion statistics that were reported on June 30th by the Indiana Department of Health. We saw the largest number of children, over 9,500, aborted in the state of Indiana, the largest number in over a decade. And all that increase was attributed to the large number of women who came from Ohio, Kentucky, and Tennessee to Indiana for abortion. So this is why we've seen the non-resident abortions in Indiana is what caused Indiana to spike. And here we are as we're recording this, we're approaching 1 year after the passage of the law in Indiana, and it's still blocked in the court. So the injunctions against this law have played heavily into making Indiana an abortion destination state. So that's a lot of stuff going on right now, but not dissimilar to what's happening in the rest of the nation right now. There are so many wheels in motion, and we have multiple suits in Indiana. So we have not only the large main suit that has gained most of the attention in Indiana before the Supreme Court, but we have two others that are percolating out there. So it's just really, when you look at the numbers, what it comes down to is just heartbreaking. I mean, the voice of the people was clearly heard when the Indiana legislature passed a new law. We should be saving these kids' lives right now, but instead, with this law being blocked, we still have Indiana as an abortion destination state. And I should say mainly from Kentucky now. In 2023, it's mainly women from Kentucky. The reason for that is Ohio has become a victim of judicial activism, and that their heartbeat law is blocked indefinitely in Ohio now. So that really has deterred traffic from Ohio coming into Indiana. But Kentucky's pro-life law is in place. It is effective right now. But all of this is just like a 50,000 foot overview of all the swirling dynamics that we're facing right now.
So the non-residents of state of Indiana, when did they start pouring in? Right, the month after Roe versus Wade was reversed?
Actually, during the month, when you look at the stats, Roe was reversed in June, and in June is when the numbers started to really skyrocket in Indiana. So you had a total of, I believe, somewhere around 400 to 425 total non-resident abortions in Indiana for the first 6 months. But then you get to the latter part of June, and then you look at going through June, July, August, and it's a little bit into September. And you see for those months, you almost average as many non-resident abortions during those months as you had the entire 6 months of Indiana combined. So it was mainly June, July, August, and then in September when Indiana's law started to go into effect. That's when we started to see the drop off. And it was a combination of not only Indiana's law going into effect, but then Ohio's law is blocked at the same time Indiana's law goes into effect. So it's just so many wheels in motion right now.
So this election coming up in Indiana, several people want to be the governor of Indiana, as well as mayors all over the place. A lot of people, about 5 people are from the Republican Party are vying for governor. You think there will be a Republican governor coming in?
Well, I mean, Indiana has been a Republican state for quite some time and a pro-life state. So I'd be very surprised if Indiana doesn't retain that position. Indiana is a conservative state. We're the crossroads of America. So I would expect that to continue. So see as that unfolds. But our pressing focus right now, rather than look at the elections of 2024, is really what's unfolding right now with Indiana and the abortion law. So we want to stay focused on that and what we're doing and what we're seeing develop with that. So
what is the Indiana Right to Life's website, and how can we get in touch with you?
Sure, it's it's IRTL.org. Easiest way to get a hold of us, IRTL.org. You'll see our latest blogs. You'll see statements that we put out for the media and so forth. Our Facebook page is at Indiana RTL, and that's another great way to stay in contact with us. And folks can also, to join our mobile activism list, they can text the word babies, BABIES, to the number 52888, and that will join folks to the activism list, which means when there's breaking news, legislative alerts, or whatever might happen, you'll get a text on your phone from us. So that's a great way to get immediate contact when things are happening.
You have lawyers working with you?
Oh, yeah, we have a lot of great attorneys that work with us and advise us.
Do you network with other people?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Where these abortions are done, were they done basically by Planned Parenthood or by hospitals? What?
Well, that's a great question to ask, because Indiana actually has very detailed abortion reporting, and folks can go to the Indiana Department of Health website, and you can, I think it's under vital statistics, and you can download the state reports. We'll have these posted by the end of this week on the Indiana Right to Life website, but you can download it directly from the state, and it lists where abortions are actually reported in the state of Indiana. So over nearly half of them, I think it's roughly 48%, are done, not surprisingly, at Planned Parenthood abortion clinics in the state of Indiana. Yeah. But one thing that really jumps off the page of the 2022 abortion report for Indiana is the number of abortions being done at hospitals in Indiana. So, for example, I have that list right here. In Indiana, you have 60 abortions reported at Eskenazi Hospital in Indianapolis. You have 5 abortions reported at Indiana University Health Methodist. You have 32 abortions reported at Indiana University Health Riley Hospital for Children.
Riley
Hospital for Children reports 32 abortions in 2022. You have 24 at the Riley Health Maternity Tower. You have 14 at the Indiana University Health University Hospital in Indianapolis. So we're seeing a large spike in hospitals doing abortions in the state of Indiana. That's also coming through very clearly on the 2022 report.
This is what bugs me about Riley, especially for children, healing them, that they birth them in
Yeah.
what floor, I don't know. Oh, man, that is so unright. The mental abortion complications for a woman who goes through an abortion, how does it affect her mentally, physically,
Really, Patty, that's a question that abortion recovery ministry folks can answer the best. But I can tell you this, in my discussion with those who have for a long time had abortion recovery ministries, what I'm hearing right now is that the psychological trauma and stress, particularly of medical abortions, the chemical abortions that are happening right now, is something that's going off the charts right now. Since the reversal of Roe and the continued rise of chemical abortifacients, it's now the majority type of procedure done in the country. It's the majority type done in Indiana. But what I'm hearing is such things as women are totally unprepared for the severe cramping, the severe bleeding, just the fallout from, it's not like taking an aspirin and everything goes away and you just go on with your day. It's a process that's just fraught with potential complications, and it's causing just all types of trauma, not only in women, but also in men. There are stories surfacing of men who think their girlfriend is bleeding to death because she's having this severe bleeding, and they're having to take their girlfriend to an ER, and there's, it looks like she's bleeding out with stuff. And so all across the board, just the impact of this, the post-abortive impact on women is really elevating. And on top of that, Indiana now has a complications report that we can now look at. And the complications report is showing the physical impact and the complications that are happening on women across Indiana. And it really paints such a devastating picture of the negative impact that this has on women across the state of Indiana. And I would add that in 2022, there is a 600% increase of abortion complications compared to 2021. And we also have seen the first quarter of 2023. And 2023 right now in the first quarter is pacing higher in complications than even 2022. We're on track to see probably a 12 to 15% increase in abortion complications in the state of Indiana, including one death that was reported as a complication from abortion in 2022.
So this chemical pill that aborts children, what does it do to the poor child?
Yeah, well, it kills the baby. And the best description of that, in my non-medical terms, that I heard Dr. Jack Wilkie, longtime hero of the pro-life movement, back when chemical abortifacients were first coming onto the scene, he always described it. And this is the best way to visually describe it to me for folks to get an idea of how this works. It's actually a 2-pill process. The first pill is actually the pill that kills the baby. And what it's doing is, he always compared it to, if you think about a grape that's attached to a grapevine, if you pinch the stem off of that grape, between the grape and the vine, the grape's going to shrivel up and it's going to die because it can no longer get any nutrients from the vine. So in a sense, what this drug is doing is it's cutting off all the nutrients to that baby from the mom, and it's basically causing that baby to die. But that's where the second pill comes in. The second pill is going to cause severe cramping and causing the mom to expel the aborted baby from that point, which that whole process of the severe bleeding, the cramping, and then seeing the expulsion of the aborted baby is also adding to the trauma of women who are engaging in chemical abortifacient. So it's a 2-drug process, and we're seeing a huge spike in complications in the state of Indiana.
So how many months do they use this chemical pill? In the beginning, halfway?
The changes, it's changing continuously, it seems like, because we have an FDA that keeps setting the goalposts different and so forth. So typically, I think it's in that 5 to 8 week range of what it was originally approved for. I'm not 100% certain on that, but it's something that folks that really want to see the details of not only how it works, but also see all of the different complications and studies and so forth. I actually think Life Issues Institute, it's lifeissues.org. They have one of the best websites, in my opinion, as far as detailing the different abortion methods. And I was looking at that actually earlier today, and they have some really great information going back all the way to really I think the 1980s and 1990s, when this was not even on the market yet in the United States, and there was a drop get it on the market. But they did a really good job, and it's a really great place to go and get detailed information on not only its history but also where it's at right now.
I interviewed Dr. William Lyle in Florida. He was talking about the reversal abortion pill. Let's talk about that, what it does. How
Yes,
many pills do you take? Just the one, or?
Well, I would let a medical professional discuss that, but I do know this, that the abortion reversal process is showing great promise. Medical professionals, pro-life medical professionals, believe that somewhere around 64 to 67% of those who partake of the abortion reversal process in the right time after taking the first abortion pill, if they take it in a timely fashion and do it the way that they will be instructed to do it, there's a 64 to 68% success rate in saving that baby's life. But it has to be done in the right timing. And the best way to learn more about that is abortionpillreversal.com. It's a website that folks can go to, and it has a lot of answers a lot of questions that people might have. So if you know someone that maybe even as you're watching this when it's broadcast, that maybe you know a woman who has taken the first pill of the abortion process, very, very recently to watching this, contact the abortionpillreversal.com. There's a toll-free number that women can call on that, get information on it, because there still is a chance to save your baby's life through abortionpillreversal.com.
Yes. Just that one pill, or you have to take two, or what?
I'm not sure how many treatments there are involved with that, but that's why you really want, it's something that you really want to have the assistance of a medical professional walking you through that.
So, Mike, this is sad, the death culture. We got to reverse it. How can we do it? We're doing what we're doing right now on my show. And I'm putting the reversal abortion pill information on my Facebook, as well as other sites that I'm on. So I'm not, I'm continually fighting for it.
Thank you for
lives. We also need to pray for the abortionists who are doing this, and for the universities who are experimenting on our babies.
Yeah, there are so many things that right now that we're seeing. A lot of our cultural just respect for a lot of things are just dissolving right now. So we have to really take an active approach in realizing that there is the legislative process with this. It's necessary. We have to be involved with that. We have to be informed in the election process and be involved with that as well. But we also have to show that we're loving and compassionate for the mom and the baby, and that we love them both. And that's a major thrust of our theme right now, is just sharing. We have to love both. And there's a huge, when you look at the abortion issue, there's a huge conflicted middle. And that conflicted middle has always been there to one degree or the other for 50 plus years when it comes to abortion. There's a large chunk of Americans in the middle, a large chunk of Hoosiers in the middle. They don't like abortion. They're not comfortable with it, but they think, well, maybe it's necessary, maybe it's not necessary. But we know that what really moves the conflicted middle to a pro-life perspective is when we legitimately and truly say that we love them both, that we can show compassion for pregnant mothers by providing services for them, providing support, praying for them, also showing compassion for the unborn baby. We can love them both in Indiana. And that's our vision, is we want to see Indiana lead the nation in showing we can care for pregnant mothers, meet their needs. We can care for unborn babies and protect their lives. It doesn't have to be one life or the other, pitting them against each other. We can love them both.
Sure.
But you also make a great point, Patty, is that we have to really realize that when we look at those who are involved in the abortion industry at whatever level that they might be, some of the strongest pro-life advocates that I've met in almost 4 decades of doing this are those who either had abortions or were involved with the abortion industry, because God reaches down, he changes hearts, and then those individuals have become real champions. And I know for myself, when I first got involved with this way back in the mid 80s, one of the first pro-life videos that I ever saw when I was just becoming aware of this issue was by Dr. Bernard Nathanson, who was a former abortionist. And that video was called Eclipse of Reason. And I think you can actually watch this on YouTube now. I haven't looked for it for a while, but Eclipse of Reason, highly encourage people to watch it if they have not seen it. But Eclipse of Reason actually uses a fetoscope inserted into the uterus during an abortion. And Dr. Nathanson just walks through all of this. He wasn't doing the abortion, but he's walking through this process. Yeah. And it just demonstrates the impact that it has. And so, but there's a case where Dr. Nathanson spent so much of his life after God called him out of the abortion industry and made him a champion for life. He spent the remainder of his days really doing that, speaking out for life. And I'm sure some of the health professionals you've had on your program in the past have that same type of testimony. So we can't just forget that there is power in prayer and that God can change hearts and minds. So we have to be involved with that, have to be involved with legislation, elections, but we have to show that we have compassion for moms and babies. All of that, it's a heavy thing to move forward at one time, but it's what we must do if we're going to restore the protection of life in Indiana and across the nation.
From the womb to the tomb, life is precious. It's not a God, it's not a religious thing. It's God. Forget about religion. It's God. He's the one who created us. People say, oh, it's a religious thing, pro-life and all. It's not. It is life that God created. And people can't understand that. They laugh at me when I write about pro-life and how precious babies are. They say, on Facebook, of course, Facebook, yeah. But
it always comes down to every single human life has value and every single life is precious and every one of us are totally unique. There's never been anyone like you or me or anyone else on the face of the earth. Every single created life is completely different. It's just fascinating, and we have enormous value. And that's really at the core of what we're saying, is all life has value.
It does have a value because it's priceless. Just one of you. No one's the same. The mother's not the same as the baby's not the same as the mother and father. Individual soul, individual body inside the mother's womb. And my late aunt back many, many years in the 60s and 70s in Toronto was an abortionist. That's what made me go against what she was doing, killing children. And I've been fighting for 50 some odd years for the chance of even seeing Roe versus Wade, it finally being reversed. And we got a lot of fighting and working to do for our children, unborn, newborn, all the way up to old age, elderly.
Yeah. A lot of work left to do.
Yeah, we're not going to stop here, kid. Mm-hmm. What would you like to say to my audience to give them hope?
I'm sorry?
What would you like to say to my audience, giving them hope?
Well, I would just like to say thank you for everyone who, Patty, just like yourself, whether you are a longtime voice for those who need a voice, or whether you're new to this, maybe you're just now entering into becoming involved in speaking for moms and really fighting for compassionate care for moms. Thank you for doing that, and keep doing what you're doing. We have a long road still ahead. Roe had to fall. It did fall, but it's just started phase one of the of the next, the entire section and the entire chapter of moving forward on this. You can look at your newsfeed tonight, and it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out our culture is fractured and falling apart in a lot of different areas. But I firmly believe that the one column that is absolutely instrumental to who we are as American, who we are as human, that has not yet crumbled, and that is the column of respect for life. But there is a massive war waging right now to reach what I call the cultural tipping point. So that column, that support for life, is still something that's in a complete attack. And this period that we're in right now, this post-Roe period, this is now moved into the most important period of the entire pro-life movement, because now we have the opportunity to move forward on the state level all across the country. But the race is on to win the hearts and the minds of the people. And the hearts and the minds of the people is always upstream from where the politics will end up at on this. So never forget, for everybody who's watching this, that yes, this is a multifaceted effort that we're involved with, but never forget that hearts and minds, we have to win hearts and minds on this issue. We have to win the culture. We have to trust in God on this.
God is the answer. Thank you, sir, for being on my show.
Thank you, Patty. Appreciate it. Thank you for all you do.
I hope you come back on, because we do enjoy talking with you, dear.
I would look forward to it.
God bless you now.
Thank you.
And we'd like to thank Mike and everyone who's watching this show. So we'll see you next week. God bless.
Thanks, Patty.
Bye, dear.
Ella is an abortion drug. It's a drug that can cause abortions if a woman is already pregnant, and it's a drug that can prevent her embryo from implanting if the egg has been fertilized. Ella blocks progesterone, and progesterone is needed to feed the baby and to cause the placenta to grow. So when Ella blocks progesterone, the baby starves and dies. When we look at Ella's effects on animals where it has been used, Ella causes abortions in mice, in rabbits, and in monkeys. And at the lowest dose that they could use in these animals, abortions were still seen. So it's clear that in mammals, blocking progesterone causes abortions. And it's very clear that in humans, we are dependent on progesterone when we're in our mother's womb, when we're implanting, and when we're growing. Progesterone feeds the placenta. So animal studies are consistent with the known fact that Ella causes abortions, just like its parent compound, RU486. The manufacturer of Ella claims that Ella works to prevent an egg from being released. But that's deceptive, because the European Medical Association, when they approved Ella in the EU, stated that Ella causes abortions. And for that reason, the European Medical Association required that a pregnancy test be done prior to taking Ella. The FDA, however, the advisory committee strongly recommended that women not get a pregnancy test. Why? So that they won't know if they've caused an abortion or not. This is dishonest and deceptive. And American women who care about choice would certainly want to know if they are causing an abortion versus simply preventing an egg from being released.
Godspeed, my love, until we meet again. You're always in my heart and every dream. Don't let this time apart give in to all our fears. God will keep us close from up above. So until we meet again, Godspeed, my love. God is with us
us always and for the rest of all our